honourable member for Bolsover, with his usual sense of fairness, will in fact allow time for another contribution before the end of the debate. Mr. Skinner.
Well, as a matter of fact, I was here as early as anybody else this morning, and the fact was that the Right Honourable Member for Chingford came in, made a speech and waltzed off, and I've not heard any Tory MPs complaining about him. And several others have waltzed in and made a speech and then bobbied off. So quite frankly, I don't see the difference between me getting a chance to speak and some of those Privy Councillors who have managed to come in and do the bit and then take the hook. So quite frankly, I've heard one or two contributions, and anybody would imagine listening to them that somehow or other that Labour's at the bottom of the poll and the Tories at the top. I mean, here they have, they've got a government day, it's their own day, they can choose whatever subject they like, and they decide to discuss a subject that is totally one which the greater public outside could well do without. There are 1,001 things that we should be talking about today, and there's 1,001 reasons why the Labour Party could be here in numbers if they wanted to be, if it wasn't for the government selecting a subject which, quite frankly, when there's all these problems around, is inconsequential to the needs of the time. Every business question time, the Leader of the House comes here and he's asked by about 20 Tory MPs and 20 Labour MPs, why don't you find time for a certain item of business next week? And what does the government do? The Leader of the House says, sorry, we haven't got the time. And then they turn up with a debate of this kind. The truth is, of course, they've made these statements about privatisation. Anybody would imagine that it's led them to some glorious end. The truth is, this morning in the Daily Telegraph, a Tory newspaper, Labour is 8 points in front. The Tories have dropped down to 33.5%, and the Liberals are about 21%, picking up votes in some of the strong Tory areas, no doubt. And if that was transformed into a general election, the result would be that Labour would have a majority of about 80 or 90 seats, at least. And anybody would imagine that, listening to these Tory MPs, that privatisation has brought about a change in the political scene outside that is beneficial to them. The truth is, after these 12 years of privatisation, the people have got fed up of it. They know, for instance, some of them that have bought shares. They've sold them. And the result is now that at this time, whereas 30% of the shares that were held 15 years ago were held by private individuals, it's now down to 20% after 12 years of privatisation. So we know that the shares, by and large, have either gone abroad or they've gone into pension funds and other institutions. So what happened to that great capital-owning democracy that we've heard about? We also know, of course, that what the Tories did was to privatise the easy bits, the ones that were relatively easy. And now they've got to the difficult parts. And no better was that described than when they tried to, well, when they succeeded in privatising the rain, water. And the public realised that the Tories had gone too far. And they didn't like the privatisation of water. And now that they're getting the big bills every quarter, every half year and every year, they realise now just what it means. Because the Water Board executives have got big wage and salary increases. The workers that create the wealth in the country have had a pottering increase. And the public outside will say, what's all this privatisation been about? And when they see the massive profits of British Gas and British Telecom and all the rest, they're bound to come to the conclusion that this privatisation wasn't for the general public, it was for a few people that are very closely wedded to the Tory party.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for giving way, and I'm pleased that the right honourable gentleman, the member for Chingford, is in his place. Almost is in a place. My honourable friend referred to British Telecom, and indeed the honourable gentleman, the member for Chingford, had something to say about British Telecom. Today is the day that British Telecom's annual report is published. I wonder what my honourable friend thinks of the fact that the publication of the annual report has been delayed until 3 o'clock, so that its contents cannot form part of our debate today. Hardly a gesture of confidence, is it?
Well, I suppose my honourable friend is absolutely right. I mean, they've been on the blower to one of the friends in British Telecom and said, well, we've got this very embarrassing debate that we've put down, we've shot ourselves in the foot, so you better hold the report back until the debate is finished. I think that's almost certainly true. What this debate has shown is that, as I say, they've run out of the privatisation ideas with a few exceptions. They've now got to the difficult bits. And that's why the honourable lady who's just left, that spoke, she's been in the debate, now she's left. I don't make any big point about it, but she has. Since somebody's had a crack at me, she's gone. But she was...
He's gone to any questions.
Oh, she was in favour of privatising a lot more things. She was in favour of privatising the National Health Service. Now, a lot of Tory MPs want to do that, but the last thing they want to do is to tell the public outside before a general election that they're going to do it. Yeah?
Giving way. As he's obviously so proud of the public sector, could he tell the House whether he's proud of the fact that the public sector, in the form of Derbyshire County Council, has given his brother a well-paid job as a minder for Japanese businessmen, when his brother was sacked by Derbyshire County Council under an earlier regime for fiddling worksheets? Is that the public sector that he's proud of?
Well, the first point is that I'm in favour of public bodies like local authorities all over the country. And I expect all Tory MPs to be in favour of local authorities, since they've not privatised local authorities yet, and I've not heard them talk about it. As for the Japanese plant, which the honourable gentleman supports, and I don't, the honourable gentleman, who's intervening from a sedentary position, actually supported the Toyota plant coming to Derby. Yes or no? Right, I don't. So whatever happens to whoever gets jobs is their business, not mine. So, quite frankly, I've got nothing to do with that. The honourable gentleman likes the Japanese, and he likes the plant. He likes the idea that they're into Derbyshire. That's his business. It's not a headache for me. So, quite frankly, the debate has now degenerated into an argument between some Tory MPs that want to privatise the health service, that want to privatise social security benefits payment system, and now, it seems, want to privatise local authorities as well. And the last thing they're going to do is to talk about it before the next general election. I mean, perhaps if they're not going to disclose what they're going to do in the next manifesto, perhaps they'll tell us why they've not yet privatised the armed forces. I mean, if the idea of providing financial incentives is the only way to make the things work, why is it that the Tories are not yet talking about saying, well, let's privatise the Royal Air Force, let's privatise the Army, let's privatise the Navy, let's privatise the police force? I mean, are these on the next agenda? Aren't they prepared to tell us? The truth is, as we all know, that privatisation has been a failure, because after 12 years of privatisation and the practice of monetarism, the manufacturing economy in Britain has gone through the floor. In every part of Britain, in every region of Britain, there are now examples of manufacturing industry being closed every week that goes by. Now, you would have thought that after 12 years of this practice of monetarism and privatisation, that there would be a lot more people in work. But we've now got more than 2 million people out of work, according to the official figures. It's more likely that when you add the women that are not on the register, it's something like 3 million, together with those 500,000 young lads and lasses that are on slave labour schemes. So here, yes, I'll give way. So here we are, with a government that's practised privatisation and monetarism for 12 years, and we've got, according to their own figures, 2 million out of work, and probably something like 3 million people without a job, and the numbers are rising every week.
The Honourable Gentleman said after all of these policies, after 12 years, you'd expect to have more people in work. He will be delighted to know that there are more people in work today in Britain than there have ever been before.
We know that the government's very handy at massaging the figures, and we all know that, included amongst those numbers that he referred to, there are now many more people in part-time occupation. We also know that there are plenty MPs in part-time occupation and all, because they've got moonlighting jobs. While we're on that subject, there's 19 ex-cabinet ministers, got 59 directorships between them. There's 250 Tory MPs got consultancies, advisorships or directorships. And after the next general election, when Labour wins, there'll be all those ex-Tory MPs be looking for jobs in all those private companies, and there'll be all those that have still got a job that'll be looking for more directorships. So my advice to the honourable gentleman on the front bench, instead of rabbiting on, he ought to be going through a list of the companies in the CBI to see which jobs he can get as a director when he's lost his job after the next general election, because that's bound to follow as sure as night follows day. And he might have a row with his right honourable friend, because he already is one of the 19 ex-cabinet ministers that's already got 59 directorships between them. He's probably got 6 already, and he wants to go and ask his right honourable friend to give him one, because he's been gobbling them up like the other ex-cabinet ministers that have taken on these jobs.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman, but in fact I think that probably it would be possible even for my honourable friend, if he wanted another job at some time in future, to get one with Derbyshire County Council. Now, as the honourable gentleman, the member for Bolsover, knows, they have a printing department in Derbyshire County Council which sometimes gets grossly overloaded with work. And although it costs the ratepayers or charge payers of Derbyshire County Council a very, very great deal of money, they have to contract out work from the council's printing department to the private sector, which costs, 50,000, 100,000 or so money. And as the honourable member for Bolsover knows, it's a damn fool idea, isn't it?
The right honourable gentleman knows how to print money, because he was the minister responsible for the privatisation of British Telecom. Then he became an ex-cabinet minister, and one of the first jobs he did was to get a non-executive directorship with British Telecom, and as a result he knew how to print money. So he's the last person to talk about Derbyshire County Council.
To point out that the honourable member for Bolsover probably wishes he was out collecting money for Councillor Bookbinder's legal fund this morning rather than being in this house.
The right honourable gentleman knows how to print money, so he should be the last person to talk about anybody, including those at Derbyshire County Council. And if the auditor had been allowed to give evidence in that libel case in which he's just participated, there's just a possibility, I don't put any higher than that he might have lost and the other fella might have won. So
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman, because I would have liked the auditor, the district auditor, to have given evidence. Indeed, I would have liked Councillor Bookbinder to have given evidence, but unfortunately he wouldn't do so, for the very same reason that we've got a junior member of the Labour Party's front bench team here this morning, because they're afraid to put a senior one on, because they can always back down. They can always back down from what a junior member says, and he's been very good under cross-examination, rather better than I suspect Councillor Bookbinder would have been. But I have to turn to the member for Bolsover and say, yes, he's quite right. I do know a thing or two about printing money. And at British Telecom, in effect, we've been doing that for our customers for the past 4 years. Our customers, yes, because they've had reductions in the costs of their telephone bills every year ever since the company was denationalised. And what's more, they've got better value. They get better service. It goes on and on and on. Improvements in the service, which we're not...
Order! That's enough for an intervention. Mr Skinner! Order! Mr Skinner!
I've got one thing to say to the right honourable gentleman. He's a non-executive director of British Telecom. He's earning a big fat fee. The profits have gone through the roof. What has he been doing lately with all those massive pay rises that the British Telecom executive and bosses have been awarding themselves? Why has he not been asked? Why has he not been doing a job in the public interest? Why hasn't he been saying to the people around that boardroom table?
Order! Adjournment.
Not a bad finish.
To now adjourn.
The question is, this House do now adjourn. Mr Nigel Spearing.
Mr Deputy Speaker, railways are in the news this week, but when I won this adjournment debate a fortnight ago, the speech of the Secretary of State for Transport and the revelations of yesterday had not actually occurred. What I wish to raise is something which is at least as equally fundamental. The major